My son was experiencing some challenges in grade 1 and 2 around getting his work done, focus, attention, staying seated when he was supposed to. So my son was diagnosed when he was in grade 3. And the interesting, phenomenon around that is the fact that being a special education teacher, I sort of went back and forth between whether I saw characteristics of ADHD before we actually got the official diagnosis. And I guess as a parent, you're sort of hesitant to put a label on your child. However, through conversations with colleagues and friends, I came to the conclusion that, like any other disorder, I would want to understand the diagnosis, if there was one there, so that I could treat it. So it was very, very difficult. It put a lot of strain on our marriage because we couldn't come to sort of it's very difficult to parent a child with ADHD, and particularly when you have a lot of friends, family wanting to offer their advice, and usually it wasn't very positive. So we got a lot of messages from other people that we were bad parents, that our child was misbehaved, that we weren't doing enough. We took parenting courses. We did the Triple P parenting course. We used all kinds of strategies. We, read books. We went to workshops, and we tried to do the best we could with what we had. But nothing was really working, and it just was becoming very frustrating. We could manage our son's behavior much better at home than others could. And so that meant we never had a babysitter. We never left our child with our parents. We never, everybody would say, oh, you have to nurture the relationship. Well, it would be a disaster if we went out for a date and came back, which happened on one occasion. We went out to a Christmas party, and my parents it was a nightmare, them having to look after him, and he wouldn't go to sleep. And when we came home, he was hysterical. We were a failure as parents. The more we tried, the more we were frustrated. And it caused a lot of conflict between us and our own relationship. We always felt, when we went to pick him up from daycare or school or whatever, just defeated, because we'd get there and there'd be this long list of things that he did wrong. We did the parent workshop in April, and literally that weekend changed our lives. So I can improve my son's situation, but it's come to a point where I want to go beyond that and help others, because I see the inequities in support. And if we didn't have the financial means that we do, or access to, insurance, I honestly don't know where we would be. And, my husband and I talk about this, how, there's a mental health crisis, but people can't get support if they don't have money to pay for it. And so, even within our own very privileged existence, we've struggled. And I can't imagine what that would be like for others, for say, single parent families, and just all kinds of groups who are on the fringe. It's no wonder the trajectory of their children and their life becomes so disastrous. We we started medication right away with our son, and the medication was a game changer. It really helped him regulate his behavior, and he, in the early days, we thought that we would take these sort of medication holidays over the summer and over the weekends, but he asked for the medication. He said it really helped him feel balanced and felt, normal, and that he was much more in control of his behavior, and he was less likely to do something that was impulsive and would get him into trouble. So I think that the early years of his academics, the way that he was treated by teachers, the way he was being treated and talked to by teachers really laid a foundation. Kids see adults and how they behave, and they take from that. This year, I'll just get into what happened this year. My son went to grade 9 to the high school that all of his peers from kindergarten went to. And we had to actually remove him from the school there, because of some issues that occurred. My son was very bright, and so he was never a red flag academically. He's always done very well. He's never really been able to have a best friend, or a group of friends that have sort of been with him or accepted him. There was always something sort of different or challenging for him. When he went to grade 9, he thought that he could sort of go between different groups and that would be okay, but that wasn't the case. It just became much more cliquey, and he really was psychologically bullied when he went to the high school, and he couldn't understand why these kids that he grew up with were being so mean to him. But it was sort of disguised as boys being boys, right? Sort of. So they would say, okay, meet us at the bakery for lunch, and he would walk out there and no one was there, and he'd walk back, they'd all be laughing. They would say, let's walk home after school, or come and meet us back at the school to see the soccer game, and he would show up and no one would be there. Then, he wasn't at the same level of hockey as some of the other kids. So they would say, oh, you might play hockey, but you're not good enough to play, AAA or whatever it is. And then there's another boy in the group that he met through, who were friends of these other friends. And this boy also had ADHD, so he felt that he could, have something in common with him. And they were kind of these boys were calling this kid names, and my son was saying to him, you don't have to take that, it's not right the way they're treating you. And then that became something that this boy used about how he was talking about these boys. And then there was, they were going to fight him, and someone came and took a picture of our house and sent a snap to him saying, I know where you live. They were sending messages like, why don't you go kill yourself? All of these things. So we just decided that this was not a good environment for him, and we pulled him out of the school and put him at the public school outside of actually our neighborhood to give him a fresh start, and he's just flourished there. But that was before he started experiencing anxiety, probably maybe some depression. We had to have some mental health interventions. So, a lot of that, I think, stemmed from his early years in school, when kids saw how teachers treated him. So he In grade 2, one of the teachers put the air freshener stick on his desk and said, likes to pass gas, or he smells, or this or that. And so when he went to grade 9, they were kind of saying, hey, do you remember this? You stink and this and that. When he was in grade 2, the teacher was very abusive to him, and kids remember those things, and it was okay to treat him that way. And when he tried to stand up for himself, so he said, my son is very kind, and what he said to the principal at the new school was, my kindness was seen as weakness. And I was treated poorly. And when I tried to exert my independence or my strength, I was laughed at. And I just want to start on a fresh slate where I can't be judged, and people can see me for who I am, not this picture that was created of me. He used to bring things to school every day. He always had things in his hand, and his teacher had this big plastic bag, and she would just grab them and put them in. Every day, send this bag home, right? But that was his fidgeting. That's what he needed, right? So he brought one of my staplers to school, and the teacher said, aha, you stole my stapler, because it was a school stapler, right? And there was all these little things that happened. I'll never forget, he said to me, I asked my teacher, what is a denominator? And she said, if you had been paying attention, you would know. And he goes, it's not my fault. And she grabbed the paper out of his hand and she shook it in his face and she said, yes, it is. It is your fault. Essentially, we're destroying people in a system that is just starting to accept and recognize difference. But because ADHD is invisible, it's much more difficult to recognize, I guess, to see. People need to donate because it's important. It's important that children with ADHD and their parents are able to access education around ADHD, are able to spread awareness and understanding of what it is like to live with ADHD. And ADHD is treatable. It is 100% treatable. And we can change pathways, we can change people's lives. And if we look at the percentage of the human population with ADHD, we can really make a big difference. If you consider that at least 1 or 2 students in every classroom is going to have ADHD, strategies and teaching methods that are good for ADHD can benefit all.